Port Milford Haven's come up a number of times today. So it is the UK's sort of leading energy port. A number of years ago, we've recognized the need that we need to diversify. And the business of marine energy is a very obvious area for us to move into, and we've been progressing through that for quite a period. I think the principle of clustering has come up a little bit already today, and that's something again we subscribed to very early on, and I think that has sort of culminated. We're now the lead partner of Pembroke Dock Marine, which again has been mentioned a number of times today. It's part of the Swansea Bay City deal, and it is certainly our expectations that the funding for that, along with the funding for WEFO that some of the other colleagues have mentioned, will be forthcoming during this year, and we'll be able to start putting some of these plans into place. So we've spent quite a bit of time talking with developers because we recognize that, as it says there, it's not just marine energy developers that they're doing. There's a lot of other things. So handling the demands of a young business in of itself is a challenge. Securing all the finance, that's been talked about quite a bit today. Consenting expertise, finding the engineering, fabrication specialists that you'll need, procurement specialists, the list sort of goes on and on and on. And how do we as a maritime sector, and particularly the port here, where can we help with that? We can't solve and help with all of those issues, but we can certainly provide support on some of them. And I think we've engaged quite a lot with the developers in order to come up with the right solutions for them and how we go about developing our port. So Joseph just talked about the sites, test sites. I was banking that he was doing that, so I didn't have to talk about that too much. But one important part of the feedback starts to take some risk off the table for the developers. We recognize that's really a very important component, and I'm really grateful that MEW taking that on as a partner with us in the Pembroke Dock Marine project. And then really our sort of core part of that, what's highlighted there is our land asset at Pembroke Port. And we have, again, worked with the developers to determine that the large areas of laydown space and fabrication spaces are what's going to be really important. So our designs have evolved over time very much based on that feedback. And again, deployment's been talked about a lot today, and I can think back to early conversations that we had with developers around deployment, and some of the I think there's clearly a lot of those lessons have been learnt, but the clear feedback to us was a supersized slipway that gets you out into deep water, which we can do because of the benefit of our natural haven, is something that would be very much in demand, and that's become our a key design item for the infrastructure that we want to put in place. But we don't forget about the things, just simple as things as office space. That's going to be critical. We're talking about in Pembrokeshire, that's not in vast quantities, so we do need to consider those things, and we can solve that problem. Workboats, berthing, ideal. We can provide support there, and wet storage as well. Paul touched on MEIS. I was hoping he was talking about a bit more. But MEIS, in really, the skills agenda, again, we felt was a really critical part of bringing the whole project together. So, really pleased that Paul and the team, as you heard from earlier, will be on site later on this year, and working with developers, working with the local academia to really move forward the innovation and research. It's a tried and tested process, and one we were really pleased to see the decision taken to base themselves around our facilities in Pembroke. Again, I touched on earlier, it's a small, none of these businesses start off small. You need to be able to manage their overheads, so incubation centers, we can provide those. We certainly are. We have developers on site at different scales at this point in time, but we've been able to incorporate their needs into our property portfolio that we have across the port. So I think the other one of the key elements that we've stressed a number of times, and we were doing it with Tidal Lagoon in Swansea as well, was Pembrokeshire's got this from the oil and gas sector. It's already got this really advanced capability supply chain, and it's there. It's there, already exists to be leveraged, and it is being leveraged by the developers that are based there now. There's a number of construction activities happening with that supply chain, many of which is actually on our estate, which is great to see. But there is an extensive engineering skill base there, fabrication, shipbuilding, and repairs as that's needed. Simple things like shipping agents, heavy lift specialists, hydraulic specialists, and the list goes on and on and on. They already all exist in Pembrokeshire, operating there, ready-made supply chain for developers. Really, I think I know from talking with many that has really been one of an important factor why they would want to locate in Pembrokeshire. So I think, in conclusion, the word collaboration has come up a lot today. It's one of the values that we have as a port, and and that's what we went out and did. So we engaged with the developers, other parts of the supply chain, the academia, to understand what is it that we need. My colleague Tim James sitting at the back there has been is probably known to most of you, and he's been instrumental in how we have been able to get to the point of building Pembroke Dock Marine, and become, the phrase that I've been using, sort of try to become, a one-stop shop, so for technology developers. And that's not just us at the port, but it's us working in collaboration with all of our stakeholders. Thank you.